I knew we were heading for train wreck the moment that clipboard hit the bottom of the trash can with a thud loud enough to silence the entire production floor. Tyler, 25, smug, and radiating Silicon Valley podcast energy, held up my laminated checklist like it was a used tissue. This, he declared, is something from a 1950s secretary. The crew laughed nervously, not because it was funny, because when the guy who signs your evaluations mocks the veteran with 18 years of no shutdowns and 0 safety violations, you fake a chuckle, or you find your toolbox packed the next morning. He tossed it into the bin like he was curing cancer with QR codes and buzzwords. Then he clapped his hands like a kindergarten teacher on Adderall and said, "Let's get lean, people." I swear the man thought Slack could change oil and fix bearings. I didn't say a word. I just looked at that trash can, my clipboard wedged between a half-eaten yogurt and an empty LaCroix, and something shifted in me. I've seen bad managers. I've outlasted 5 of them. But this one was special. This one came with glittery PowerPoints and a girlfriend who live-streamed our loading dock on TikTok like it was Coachella. Real quick, before we go deeper into this disaster, if you're one of the 97% listening to this and not subscribed, hit that button and toss us a like. It motivates the hell out of the team that helps bring these stories to life. Kinda like coffee, but digital and less acidic. All right, back to the chaos. Tyler rolled out his innovation plan that afternoon. No more physical checklists. No more daily equipment walkthroughs. Instead, got an app that only worked on half the phones and sent alerts to a Slack channel that nobody had notifications turned on for. He spent 20 minutes explaining how cloud-integrated process governance would eliminate human error. Meanwhile, Jerry from maintenance had to ask him twice how to find the damn calendar. By Thursday, the boiler hadn't been inspected in 4 days. The grease schedule on line 2 got skipped. The air compressor sounded like it was chain-smoking menthols behind the building. I flagged it, verbally, then in writing. Tyler said, "Relax, Diane. This isn't 1995. We've got predictive analytics now." Then he posted a selfie in the break room with a ring light and an iced coffee captioned #leadership vibes. He stripped me of shift authority, said my reporting cadence was obsolete, told HR I was having difficulty adapting to change, all because I suggested, radical, I know, that we maybe keep an eye on the machines that literally make us $3 million a day. So I adapted. I started logging every skipped inspection, every anomaly, every ignored alert. I took photos. I timestamped them. I backed it all up to my own cloud folder labeled "in case of fire," literally. I smiled through every daily huddle while Tyler stood in front of the crew and spewed phrases like vertical alignment and synergy in motion, unaware the whole system was grinding toward collapse. Because there's a difference between change and sabotage, dressed in skinny jeans. And sooner or later, the plant was going to show him the difference. The first system Tyler killed was the morning maintenance round, what we used to call the coffee and listen tour. You'd walk the line, or the hum, the hiss, the occasional hiss that wasn't supposed to be there. Some things you don't learn from a dashboard. You learn from the way the floor vibrates when a belt's wearing down. But according to Tyler, scheduled diagnostics are overkill for modern hardware. He announced it like he was revealing fire to cavemen. "If it ain't broke," he said, "why waste time checking it?" This came from a man who once tried to reboot the forklift by holding down the horn. Also killed my shift end logs. Said, and I quote, "Nobody reads PDFs in 2025. Instead, he introduced a Slack thread called #dailywrap, where people were supposed to just drop thoughts like we were all journaling our feelings, not managing industrial-grade machinery that could take your hand off if you blinked wrong. For a few days, I thought maybe I was the problem. Maybe I was too rigid, too stuck in my clipboard ways. Then the signs started rolling in, and they didn't come gently. First, it was Lucy misloading pallets because Tyler told her to skip the verification step, just scan the damn barcode and move on. Then, it was Marco's forgetting to release the drain on the compressor tank. Then the bin sensor on line 3 started glitching. One morning, I noticed someone had shut the exhaust fan off completely. Tyler said it was drawing too much power from the grid. I told him it was venting heat from the boiler room. He told me, "We've got smart thermostats now, Diane, chill." I didn't chill. I started documenting. Not with company tools, they were already Tyler tainted. I used my own tablet. Every vibration I heard, every pressure gauge I saw out of tolerance, every little thing that smelled off, I logged it. I took photos. I wrote notes. I even drew diagrams. My folder was named Eisenhower's Revenge. Wasn't a joke, it was insurance. The crew noticed too, not right away, but gradually. Instructions became foggy. Tyler would say one thing at 9 a.m. and another at 3. He told 2 techs to update the same software simultaneously, and when it bricked the diagnostics console, he blamed the system and said someone must have fat-fingered it. People started whispering. Not rebellion, just concern. You'd hear things like, did we grease that pump last shift? Or is the backup fan still disconnected? I kept my face neutral and said nothing. Because when you raise your hand too many times under a manager like Tyler, you become the problem, not the solution. HR sent me a coaching opportunity form after he reported that I was resistant to workflow modernization. I signed it, didn't fight, just nodded. Then I went home, cracked open a Diet Coke, finished annotating the photos I took of the cracked weld near the chemical storage, dated, time-stamped, and cross-referenced with the last time Tyler canceled the inspection. He thought I was fading into the background. He thought I was harmless. He thought the checklist was just paper. He didn't realize he'd thrown out the only system that ever kept this place running, and that I was building something stronger in silence. The first real red flag wasn't a scream. It was a hum. Not the good kind, the low, steady hum that tells you the line's running smooth. This was high-pitched, inconsistent, like a rattlesnake trying to yodel. I traced it to one of the main coolant pipes near Station 12, right where the vibrations always start when the internal bracing begins to slip. Back in the day, I'd mark it down, flag maintenance, and we'd tighten the anchors within the hour. But now, that pipe wasn't even on Tyler's Slack checklist. It exists in his brave new workflow. I snapped 3 photos, one of the pressure gauge slightly pulsing, one of the weld seam vibrating, and one of the floor panel beneath it beginning to shimmer like heat waves. I logged them. Time 09:14. Date Wednesday. File name Vibe Pipe Tyler Day 23. I flagged Marcos in maintenance with a friendly hey, can you give this a quick look on Slack? Nothing. At 10:30, the hydraulic press on line 4 jammed. Rookie, new hire, sweet kid, forgot to reset the pressure valve after a purge cycle. That valve was part of the old daily walkthrough, the one Tyler had called redundant dinosaur rituals. I went straight to Tyler's office. Except Tyler wasn't in his office. He was down on the loading dock giving a tour to his girlfriend, who apparently had a lifestyle vlog and wanted to do a behind-the-scenes of American industry. Was filming herself walking between racks in a miniskirt and heels, while Tyler explained how he was revolutionizing analog workflows. I stood there, clipboard in hand, yes. I'd printed out a copy of the backup checklist for my own sanity and waited for a pause. When it came, I said, we had a press jam, and the pipe near Station 12 showing vibration signs. It needs a shutdown check. Tyler didn't even look at me, just kept smiling for the camera and said, Diane, please, we've already addressed the bottlenecks. We're streamlining now, remember? His girlfriend laughed and said, she's cute, like a plant mom for machines. I should have snapped. I should have screamed. But I didn't. Instead, I walked back to my station and wrote up both issues, photos, time logs, cross-referenced with last service dates. I created a folder on my tablet labeled Pre-Failure Evidence Reviewed Never. Over the next few days, the plant became a graveyard of unacknowledged warnings. The lubrication schedule for Line 2 got skipped twice. Gears started clanking like they were chewing gravel. The emergency stop on Line 5 lit up for 6 seconds before auto-resetting. Nobody knew why. A temperature alert triggered on the solvent tank. No one responded. I gently poked the team. Hey, did we check that bearing on the conveyor? Anyone follow up on the fan pulse warning? My tone was always soft, always professional, and always met with the same shoulder shrugs or Tyler said it's fine. Then the cherry on top, HR called me in. A 20-something rep, fresh out of college, judging by the novelty mug on her desk, looked at me with a mix of pity and corporate rehearsed empathy. Tyler's concerned, she said. He says you're struggling to adapt. That you may be, she checked her notes, undermining team cohesion with legacy process fixation. Asked if there had been any incidents. She said, no official ones, but your behavior is creating friction. You might consider embracing Tyler's modernization. Show some initiative in the digital tools. I nodded. I signed the form. Then I walked out and added the HR visit to my log. Entry 47. Emotion. Corporate gaslighting in action. I wasn't resisting change. I was recording the fall. They thought they were silencing the old voice in the room. They were really doing was giving it time to prepare. It was a Friday morning, one of those tense, humid ones where the air in the plant feels thick enough to chew. I walked past panel 3 and froze. Click, 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 pause, click, click, click. A rhythm I hadn't heard in years and never wanted to hear again. It's the kind of pattern that doesn't show up on a dashboard. No alert pings. No red bar on a screen. But if you've stood in this plant long enough, you feel it. Like the machinery's trying to speak Morse code for we're about to eat someone's hand. It was coming from the relay board tied to the main compressor unit. 3 relays trying to sync and failing. I bent down, ear almost touching the panel, and counted the misfires. Not one-off glitches. This was a coordination failure. The kind that, if left alone, could cascade into a shutdown or worse, a detonation. I stood up slowly, wiped the sweat from my neck, walked back to my desk. I didn't message Tyler on Slack. I didn't drop a thought in the hash daily wrap. I drafted a formal incident recommendation. Subject line, request, preventative shutdown panel, 3 anomalies detected. I CC'd Tyler. Facilities. Safety. Even looped in a regional maintenance supervisor who still owed me a favor from that busted conveyor nightmare in 17. I wrote, observed irregular clicking and synchronization errors in relay system tied to main compressor. Recommend immediate 15-minute diagnostic pause. Failure to isolate could result in pressure fluctuation or control malfunction. Photos and logs attached. Sent. Time, 0843. At 09:05, Tyler replied, appreciate your concern, Diane, but we're not hitting pause because someone's nervous. We're in the middle of a high-volume cycle. Let's keep momentum. No one else responded. I stared at that reply for a solid minute, reread it twice. Then I opened my drawer, pulled out my portable printer, and printed every damn page. The report, the reply, the photos, the timestamp from my audio recording app, which I'd used to capture the clicks. Each page slid from the printer like confessionals from a machine priest. I stapled them. I labeled them, put them in a red folder titled When, Not If IT Happens. Then I did the hardest thing, nothing. I didn't storm into Tyler's office. I didn't call a meeting or stage a dramatic walkout. I just walked back to panel 3, stared at it for 10 seconds, then went to my locker, grabbed my lunch, and sat outside on the loading dock, right where Tyler's influencer girlfriend had once filmed herself doing yoga next to a propane tank. My sandwich tasted like metal. Back inside, I watched the line keep moving. Conveyor belts pulsed, forklifts danced. Machines did their best impression of normal, but underneath it all, I could feel it, that off-kilter beat, like a skipped heartbeat waiting to become a seizure. I told myself, one more day, one more log, one more warning to add to the pile. Because some systems don't scream before they fail. They whisper. When no one listens, the whole place learns what silence really costs. Monday, 10:17 a.m. It started with the kind of screech that makes your spine twitch, a wet metal-on-metal shriek that cut through the hum of production like a scream in church. Then the lights above line 3 flickered. Red strobes strobed. Sirens wailed like the floor itself had finally had enough. The conveyor jammed. And not a little hiccup. Not a jiggle, the sensor kind of jam. This was full-blown seizure. The rollers locked. The motor overcompensated. Weight piled up behind the blockage like a freight train slamming into a brick wall. Somewhere down the chain, the automated tension system tried to correct and failed. One alarm became 2, 2 became a cascade. And then the pressure tank, a 2,000-gallon bastard of stainless steel and bad decisions, hit critical. Whump. The emergency shutoff triggered. The whole plant stopped breathing. At first, it was just the sound of machinery dying. Then silence. And then came the yelling, the scrambling, the maintenance guys cursing, tugging on fire assistant gloves with hands that weren't steady. The floor supervisor, who Tyler had promoted 3 weeks ago for being vibe forward, ran in circles yelling, just reset it. Reset it, like the floor was a Netflix app and not a mechanical system on the verge of vomiting bolts. I didn't move. I stood where I'd been, just off the side of line 3, clipboard in hand. Same one they'd called obsolete. Same one that still bore the grease marks of a decade's worth of flawless shifts. The red folder was in my bag, the one with the logs, the photos, the ignored warnings, the emails, the sound recordings. The printed Slack replies where Tyler said, we're not hitting pause because someone's nervous. From across the plant, someone yelled, shut it down. Shut everything down. Oh, honey, it was already down. HR came rushing out of their office in high heels and panic, trying to remember where the fire exits were. An intern slipped on a puddle of coolant and took out a pallet jack like it was bowling. Someone on the comms team was crying because she couldn't figure out how to mute the site-wide PA system. Then came the suits. First, security. Then the legal rep. And finally, the CFO, voice crackling through the overhead speaker like God himself had gotten a call from Wall Street. "What the hell happened?" he barked. Nobody answered. Tyler, nowhere to be seen, my guess. Hiding in the loading dock, refreshing Slack, waiting for someone to invent a QR code that could rewind time. I felt oddly calm. Like standing in the eye of a storm I'd watched form for weeks. One of the mechanics brushed past me, eyes wide, asking Diane, "Do you know what blew?" I nodded. Relay sync failed. Overload wasn't caught. Pressure tank tried to compensate. Backup vent never re-enabled. Whole system choked on its own silence. He blinked. "You sound like you expected this." I documented it 4 days ago. He looked at my clipboard, then at the chaos, then back at me. "You told him, didn't you?" "I told everyone," I said. I watched as the floor flooded with emergency crews, clipboards of their own in hand, barking orders and taking readings. And I didn't feel anger or vindication or some dramatic urge to shout, "I told you so," from the rafters. No, I felt still, like a machine that had been running too hot for too long, finally allowed to power down. Let the system crash. Let the alarm scream. I'd already packed my evidence, because unlike Tyler's system, mine was built for this, and it was just getting started. He showed up like a thundercloud in a suit. No warning, no preamble, no announcement over the speaker system. 1 second the floor was buzzing with chaos cleanup, and the next, there he was. The CEO, the actual CEO, not a regional director, not some PR puppet. The man whose name was on the plaques in the lobby, who hadn't stepped foot on the production floor in over 6 years. He walked through the entrance like a ghost had called him. Black suit, no tie, rolled up sleeves. Looked like he hadn't slept in 2 days. His eyes scanned the wreckage, safety foam still drying around the pressure tank, 3 forklifts idle, cords dangling like snapped tendons. The CFO trailed behind him like a man being led to his own funeral. No one dared breathe. Tyler appeared from somewhere, rumpled, red-faced, lanyard twisted. You could practically smell the Axe body spray trying to hold back flop sweat. The CEO didn't acknowledge anyone at first, just stopped in the middle of the floor and said, without turning, "Tyler, walk me through what procedures were in place this morning." Tyler swallowed, stepped forward, and began waving his tablet like it was a holy artifact. So we've been using a digital workflow, Slack integrated, and this dashboard here was supposed to log safety checkpoints, but we had a sync issue today," and he trailed off. The CEO didn't blink, didn't nod, just walked, slow and deliberate, past Tyler, past the busted motor, past the fire extinguisher station. He turned down the side aisle. Everyone watched him stop in front of a trash can by the break room, the one nobody had touched all weekend. He bent down, reached in, and pulled out a clipboard, my clipboard, the one laminated in duct tape corners, slightly warped from time and oil smudges. The one Tyler had tossed with a smirk 23 days ago, held it like it was a relic. Opened to the last completed checklist, my handwriting, dated, initialed. The room was frozen. Even the beeping from the diagnostic console seemed to lower its volume. He flipped page after page. You could hear it, that dry whip-whip of paper worn soft by years of repetition. He turned back toward Tyler. "This checklist," he said, voice level but sharp enough to pierce steel, "ran this floor for 6,580 days. 0 shutdowns, 0 pressure failures, 0 OSHA flags." Tyler opened his mouth. The CEO raised the clipboard slightly. "Explain why it's in the trash." Tyler stammered. I was modernizing. It didn't integrate. Did it work?" Tyler blinked. "I mean, it was paper. I thought we needed to evolve. Did it work?" Silence. Somewhere near the back, someone whispered like a clock. The CEO turned toward me. For the first time, he met my eyes. "You kept a backup." "You?" I nodded once. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. He handed me the clipboard. It felt warm, like it had been waiting for this moment longer than I had. "Finish your report," he said to me. Then turned to Tyler. "You? Office. Now, no yelling, no threats, just gravity." And just like that, the air shifted. You could feel it. Like someone turned the planet slightly and suddenly everything that was upside down started falling the other way. Power reclaimed. Silence earned. Found me in the hallway about an hour after the chaos quieted. By then, the diagnostics team had taken over the floor. The fire marshal was gone. And Tyler, last I saw, was sitting in the HR conference room looking like someone who just realized he wasn't the main character anymore. The CEO stepped out of his makeshift war room and simply said, "Diane, walk with me." We didn't go far. Just a quiet office tucked between accounting and records, the kind with stale air and forgotten file cabinets. He closed the door behind us, didn't sit, just leaned against the desk like he was carrying the weight of the entire plant on his shoulders. He didn't start with small talk. "I've seen the logs," he said. "All of them." I didn't flinch. I didn't ask what logs. He kept going. "The photos, the printed Slack messages, the warning reports, even your sound recordings." One of the IT guys found the file name when not IFIT happens and said, "I think she predicted the shutdown." I stayed quiet. "You didn't scream," he said. "You didn't grandstand. You didn't pull some gotcha stunt. You documented. You did your job, you did his job, and you waited." Still, I said nothing. He reached into a folder and pulled out a copy of my recommendation from Friday morning. The one Tyler had brushed off, laid it on the desk next to the Slack printout of Tyler's reply. "We're not hitting pause because someone's nervous." He looked up at me. "You kept this place breathing under someone else's negligence." I felt something loosen in my chest then, not relief, not pride, something deeper, like a crack finally settling into place after weeks of stress. I didn't cry, didn't smile. I just nodded. He folded his arms. "I want you reporting directly to me moving forward." It caught me off guard. "I'm sorry," I said. "You heard me. I don't trust this place to run unless someone who knows how it actually runs has eyes on the systems. I want you overseeing every process audit moving forward. Oversight, systems review, full access, direct line to me. No more going through whoever the hell HR thinks is trendy." I didn't answer right away. My hands were still lightly stained with graphite and grease. Could smell the burnt plastic from the failed relay lingering in my hair. And there he was, offering me keys to the engine room. "But you're not firing him," I said finally. He sighed. "Not yet. Don't want to trigger a wrongful termination lawsuit. But he's out of decision-making. No title, no team, he'll observe, that's it, and learn," I asked. He gave a small, crooked smile. "If he's smart. Which I wouldn't bet your retirement on." Silence hung between us. "I'm not flashy." I said. "I don't need flashy," he replied. "I need functioning." I looked around the dim little office, ugly chair, mismatched filing cabinets, a clock that ticked like it wanted to escape the wall. "I want a different desk," I said. He laughed. Actually laughed. "You'll get an office, glass walls, whatever you want, and a label printer." He grinned. "Hell, I'll get you too." I exhaled. It was quiet, but not heavy, or like the kind of quiet that comes after a long shift when you finally sit down and take off your steel toes. "I'll do it," I said. He offered a hand. I didn't shake it. I just nodded. And we both understood. It wasn't a promotion. It was a course correction. The new office wasn't huge, but it didn't need to be. It had glass walls and a view of the floor, and that alone made it feel like a cathedral compared to the fluorescent coffin I'd been stuffed in before. From my desk, I could see the conveyors, the compressors, the pipes that clicked when ignored, the men and women who actually made this place run. I could see everything, and they could see me. First day in that office, I walked in with a fresh stack of printed checklists. Not just mine, new ones. Laminated, color-coded, step-indexed by line and machinery. Each with version numbers and approval stamps. Dropped the master folder onto my desk and labeled it, "Systems that actually work." Facilities came by at 8:15 sharp. Safety at 8:30. By 9 o'clock, I had maintenance leads in the hallway, debating whether we should reinstate the biweekly thermal scans Tyler had scrapped. I didn't even have to call the meeting. They came to me. And then, at exactly 9:15, he arrived. Tyler. Dressed like a demoted Best Buy manager, polo shirt, no lanyard, eyes twitching like he hadn't slept right since Monday. He stood at the glass door and tapped once. "Morning, Diane," he said, voice flat. I just nodded. "Grab a seat." He slid into the chair across from me, notebook in hand. I noted it was paper, not digital. Probably because nobody was about to lend him access to the Slack system he'd broken. "You'll be shadowing me for the next 90 days, I said, flipping open the meeting agenda. Process observation trainee. Be expected to document every checklist we walk through, every diagnostic procedure, every maintenance protocol. You'll not be expected to talk unless asked a direct question." He nodded, jotted something down. I could see his jaw tightening. "Any questions?" He looked up just briefly. "No, ma'am." That one almost made me laugh. "Ma'am." Across the glass, Marcos from maintenance gave me a thumbs up. Lucy popped her head in later to ask if we were reinstating the lockout-tagout drills. Jerry brought coffee. For the first time in weeks, people were asking questions again, real questions. Not just where do I post this on Slack, but is the emergency bypass still functional? And can I train the new guy on the analog panels first? They were treating me like a leader, not because of a title, not because of a promotion, but because, when the systems failed, I didn't. Tyler sat through all of it. Every briefing, every procedure rundown, every 7:45 a.m. review of equipment that wouldn't ping unless it was already too late. He watched me rebuild the routine he'd torn up. Watched the floor hum back to life not with dashboards and vibes, but with logic, rhythm, and earned respect. He wrote down everything, never spoke, and me, I didn't gloat, didn't strut, didn't say I told you so. But every time I caught him scribbling down the exact same steps he once called secretary work, I allowed myself the smallest smile. Subtle, quiet, but satisfying as hell. The company-wide meeting was held in the main training hall, where they usually made you sit through videos about fire extinguisher placement and HR policies narrated by a cartoon squirrel. But this time, there was no projector, no music, no donuts, just rows of folding chairs, lectern at the front, and silence that stretched longer than most of us were used to. The CEO walked in with purpose, same black suit, same rolled-up sleeves, like he hadn't taken a breath since Monday. But his energy was different now. Not storm cloud, more like verdict. He didn't stand behind the lectern. He stood in front of it, holding something under his arm. "I want to tell you a story," he said. Every head turned. He lifted the clipboard. Not just a clipboard, my clipboard. The duct-taped, grease-stained, corner-frayed veteran that had spent more time on this floor than most of the people in the room. "I once had a manager," he said, who mocked a checklist. Called it something from a 1950s secretary. Said we needed to evolve. Said paper had no place in a modern plant. The silence thickened. He held the clipboard up for everyone to see. This checklist ran our production line without a single unplanned shutdown for 6,580 consecutive days. That's over 18 years. No failures, no lawsuits, no foam-slicked disaster zones. People shifted in their chairs. Some glanced toward the back, where Tyler sat with his hands clasped tight, staring at his knees. The CEO continued. His clipboard represents something we lost when we got too focused on shiny things and stopped listening to the people who knew what the hell they were doing. He turned to the wall behind him, where a black velvet sheet had been pinned up earlier that morning. He pulled it down. A new plaque, simple, metal, no marketing buzzwords, no corporate fluff. Just, the Diane protocol this system kept us alive. Donated by Diane Keller, Operations Integrity Lead. Archived June 2025. Retired only in theory, there were gasps. Applause started to bubble, not wild, not explosive, but steady, real, the kind that grows from the chest, not the throat. The CEO laid the clipboard into a glass case mounted below the plaque, locked it in with a simple twist of a key. Then he said the line I'd waited nearly a month to hear: "Some things don't need reinventing, just respecting." Tyler's name was never said. Not once. No public shaming. No pink slip handed out. But it didn't have to be. Everyone in that room knew, and me? I stood at the back of the hall, arms folded, watching it all. Didn't smile, didn't cry, just watched. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about memory. My checklist would outlive all of us now. Etched in steel, behind glass, standing as proof that quiet competence beats loud ignorance every damn time. And if Tyler ever forgot, he could just look up. My name's on the wall. Appreciate you sticking around, you wise old rebels. Smash that subscribe button, or this fossil might just cause another epic fiasco.